My name is Robert Gogan, and my wife and myself built our house here in County Westmeath in the heart of Ireland in 2015, and we moved in 2016, and this is now December 2022, so we're talking about just over 6 years ago now. Now, we wanted to be as sustainable as possible in our home, so we decided to install a heat recovery system. This is a system where your house is sealed up completely. It's made as airtight as possible so that there are no ventilation grills in the walls or any holes in the walls or anything like that. But there's a unit which sucks out the stale air from the house and blows in fresh air from the outside. But the attraction of a heat recovery system is that it takes the heat out of the stale air and adds it to the outside fresh air as it comes into the house. I'll show you just how all of this works in a minute. We contacted a company called Home Care Systems in Dungannon, County Tyrone, and they quoted for a system called the Villavent Heat Recovery System, which is supplied by a company called Systemair. So we went with the Systemair Villavent system, and this unit beside me here is the engine of the whole system. Now, I've taken the side off it to show you just how it works, but I've unplugged it, so it's all very safe. Now, the way this works is there is ducting in every room in the house. And this fan here sucks the warm, stale air from certain rooms in the house, such as the kitchen, the utility room, the bathrooms and things like this. And this warm is sucked out through this channel here, and it passes through this particular drum, which is rotating all the time. And this drum then begins to heat up with the warm air coming through here. And the second part of this is we've a fan here which sucks in air from the outside of the house, which would normally be much colder, of course, than the interior air in the house. But this air is sucked in through this here, and it goes through the drum. This drum is now warmed up by the stale air coming this way. It's rotating, and this fan sucks the warmth from this drum and therefore distributes warmer air around the house. A very simple design. So you basically have three mechanical or operational parts. You've got the two fans here, and you have this small motor here, which is called the rotor motor, which causes this drum via this belt here to keep rotating all the time. Now, we were told when we got the system that all we had to do is just switch it on and leave it running all the time. All we need to do is just turn it off once a year to change these filters and to give it a general service as outlined in the service manual. And this mainly entails making sure that all of the compartments are clean and that the fans are moving freely and that they haven't come loose or anything like that. The whole system, the fitting of the ducting and the supply of this unit cost us €6,980. So it was, well, just short of €7,000. Now, Home Care started fitting the ducting in July 2015 or so, and the final bits came into place in January 2016, and we moved in February. And everything was working fine at the beginning. I changed the filters every year, checked the fans and dusted and cleaned up the interior of the unit, which actually was never very dirty. But then in August 2020, now this is just 4.5 years after the system had been switched on, I noticed that the unit had stopped working. It turns out that this particular fan had failed, and therefore the whole system had shut itself down. Now, I managed to disconnect the fan with the help and advice of Home Care, and I sent it up to them. They told me that the main bearing of the fan had seized. They got in touch with the suppliers, Systemair Villavent, and Systemair Villavent agreed to replace the faulty fan free of charge as a gesture of goodwill. So I fitted the new fan and we fired up the system again, and everything was grand. Then, in November 2021, and that's just over a year after the first fan had failed, I noticed that the unit had stopped working again. I contacted Home Care again, and they told me that this time it appeared from what I had told them on the phone that the rotor motor may have failed and therefore would need to be replaced. Now, as you can imagine, I wasn't very happy about this. So I asked Home Care to contact Systemair Villavent about it to see what they were going to do about it. In January 2022, Systemair Villavent, in an email to Home Care, said, and I quote, "There is no way of knowing why a component fails after 5.5 years without a full and comprehensive survey of the site conditions, which would be chargeable." And the email went on to say, in any case, warranty would not apply. So what they were telling me was that I was going to be stuck with all of the costs of getting the system examined by an engineer and then repaired. And this was regardless of what had caused the failure. I asked Home Care to find out from Systemair Villavent just how much it would cost for an engineer to come out and investigate the problem. And they told me that somebody from Systemair Villavent would be in touch with me. So I waited. But they never did. And I tried again, but still nobody from Systemair Villavent ever contacted me. Now, for various reasons, I wasn't in a position to take up this matter again until a few weeks ago, which would be roughly the middle of September. So in September, I contacted Home Care in Dungannon, and they told me from the information I could give them that the second fan, this one here, had failed, and that it mightn't be the rotor motor problem at all. Home Care, in fact, were fairly certain that the problem was that the bearing had failed in this fan here, exactly the same as what had happened in this fan a few years earlier. I began to think to myself, does Systemair Villavent have an inherent problem with the bearings in their fans, or was I just very unlucky? And unfortunately, I'm afraid I'm not in any position to answer that question. Home Care Systems in Dungannon very kindly suggested that they'd send an engineer down from Dungannon, and if I could meet him somewhere in Dublin, they could change the bearing in the faulty fan on the spot. So I removed the faulty fan from the unit and I met the Home Care engineer in Dublin on October 11th last, and he replaced the bearing. And I'm very happy to be able to say at this stage that they didn't actually charge me anything for this, which was very kind of them. And I'm very grateful to them for that. So I came home and I fitted the fan, and I could see that both fans were now working properly again. The only problem now was that this rotor motor wasn't working, and therefore this drum was not going around. Which of course made the system totally useless as a heat recovery system. With a little bit more investigation, we were able to confirm that in fact this rotor motor had also failed and therefore had to be replaced. The rotor motor cost me €197, and again, with the help of Home Care, I was able to install it myself. And as I make this video, I can say to you that the system is finally working properly again. When I ordered the Systemair Villavent system just over 6 years ago, I certainly didn't expect that the only 3 mechanical components of the system, these 2 fans and this rotor motor, would all fail within just 5.5 years. It is certainly not what I had anticipated or what I thought I was paying for. Now, before uploading this video, I asked Home Care and Systemair Villavent if they wanted to make any comments which I could include on this video, and neither of them did. So, well, as I wrap up here, I'd like to point out to you that I am very happy with the service and support I've received from the installers of the system, that's Home Care Systems in Dungannon. They've gone out of their way to help me in every way they can, and without their help, the problems that I've had with this Systemair Villavent unit and the replacement of the parts would have cost me an awful lot more money. And even though it's all working properly again, I can't help regularly wondering just how long it'll be before these components, the two fans and the rotor motor, fail once again. And I'll be back to square one. So thank you for taking the time to watch this little video, and if you're thinking of installing a heat recovery system in your home, I hope that you found it helpful.